Hello, everybody. It's been a while, hasn't it, Chris?
It certainly has.
Mm.
I dread to think back when the last one was. Actually, too long ago.
Um,
Too long ago.
Too long ago. Too long ago. Anyway, welcome to the Wild Portishead live show with myself and Mr. Christopher Sperring. How are you, Chris?
Well, the reason why I'm trussed up is I've got this damn bacterial infection back again. So
Oh
finding it
dear.
very hard to regulate my body heat at the moment. So that's why I'm looking like this. But there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Well, it's for those of you who aren't aware. I had some adventures last year. I think is the best way of putting it. Um, I was diagnosed with, thankfully, what ended up being a benign brain cyst. But I ended up having 4 operations, only two of which I can remember. But fighting fit, which is good news, and back working. And such as today, I went out with my friend Alan, and we did the strawberry line from Sanford to Axbridge. Fabulous walk. Ended up doing 10 miles. So, which compared to
Fabulous.
this time last year, I couldn't even do a mile. It was grim. So, thank you, NHS. That's all I can say on that one. Chris, we are going to talk tonight about one of our pet subjects, which has been Slade Road Field. Now, the good news is that the other week, North Somerset Council announced that they were taking it off their development list,
Yep.
which is something we have been fighting for exactly. Um, we've been fighting for some years now. And this kind of goes back to 5 years ago. And those of you with slightly long memories may remember seeing both myself and David Newton in the local newspaper when, in the height of breeding season, North Somerset Council, in all their wisdom, decided to hack back the entire field. I'm just trying to bring up some images here at the moment. And so it was just the wrong time of year to have done it. And like I say, we were absolutely outraged. And in fact, I think it's fair to say that it was probably that which led to the formation of Wild Portishead ultimately, because it was that realization that if somebody wasn't going to stand up and actually defend these places, and there we go, that was, bear in mind, this was the height of breeding season. This was May, I think it was either May or June 2018.
Most of that you need to point out was scrub.
Yeah,
So it was prime nesting site.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
also let me cut in and say it's good hideaway sites as well for slow worms, hedgehogs, etc., etc., etc.
Yep. And yeah, so the good news, I mean, it just gives you an idea of just the devastation from 5 years ago. The good news is that North Somerset Council have taken it off their development list, and I'm just going to bring up another image here for a second. Bear with. We're having a few technical gremlins tonight. And yeah, so we are grateful to the hard work that's been done by some of our local councillors. And this was how the news was broken on the 9th of January, Slade Road playing field, and it's been taken off the site's allocation plan. So, yeah, so the question is, it's off the list. So, what can be done with it next?
Well, it needs to be, and as those people are already trying to have a say, I'm not sure what the setup is because certainly nobody, I don't know if anybody's contacted you, but I've not been contacted at all since
Right.
the announcement was made. I would have thought by now we would have got together at least a posse of people made up of the members of the public that were interested in the site, in particular councillors, just to basically say, okay, now we've got it. There's already call for tidying it up. But I sent a note to definitely one of the councillors. I was too sick to go to the council meeting. I think you took my place, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
I sent a note to one of the councillors basically saying, you now need to be very, very careful because there will be a call to tidy up the site. But if you don't hurry up, the birds will start breeding again and you'll be back into trouble. So it's a period of time then where you just can't go in.
No.
And things like hedgehogs will be waking up. It all needs to be, all the bramble needs to be basically pushed back. It needs to be pushed back up to the hedge. So it's in its rightful place. At the moment, it's spread across virtually the entire site. So you need to tidy that up. Unfortunately, it's providing a wonderful habitat for a whole host of of different species, some of which will be protected. So, for instance, slowworms could be definitely underneath an area like that. So now it needs all to be checked. And apart from being checked, it then needs to be, action needs to be done before the birds actually start breeding. And effectively, you don't eradicate those brambles. They'll still be there. You just push it right back up towards that stream. And if you don't want the brambles right up to the stream, there's something wonderful you can do, which is to create some light into the stream by basically, if you imagine that the hedge, when we finish, will be there. Oh, I can't do this. This is all back to front. So there, and the stream is there. So effectively, what you're going to do is create basically another hedge there. So you cut right along the edge of the ditch, creating a pathway along there, which creates light. And the birds will need light. It's going to be successful. And of course, what that can lead to is you creating still water areas for amphibians, for other pond life. And all this leads towards a fantastic educational facility for the young people of Portishead and the older ones that are really interested.
I think I am going to a meeting on Thursday. It's a very early meeting to talk about, just throw ideas around from what I gather. It would be helpful if you were there, but I don't think you're going to be able to make it, are you, Chris?
I don't know at the moment. It's take every day as it comes.
Yeah.
With this infection, so take it every day as it comes.
I think what we can do though is we can ping some ideas backwards and forwards, and I can do some drawings, so I can take something with me to the meeting whereby we've actually got we've actually got something we can talk about, which isn't just empty ideas. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think you need. I think there was so much public interest in Slade Road as an area. I think whatever you do, whoever you are, and whatever you do, you've got to really include the public. The consultation has to be really good. Open up for ideas as well. But I think you produced the map, didn't you?
I did. It was
a very hub, weren't we, or something like that?
It was a very crude map. I'll bring it up here.
But it comes with an idea.
Yeah, because there on the outskirts there is all the scrub which we've pushed back as best we can. Then it's kind of like you've kind of layered it, so you've got semi-mown grassland, which is the pale green areas.
Yep.
Then you've got the mown paths going through the middle, which gives you access from downside to the steps that go up and lead up to the Portishead Town Council owned land. And then there was just rough idea is at the bottom of the slope, because this is the infamous sloping football pitch of Slade Road School, which I used to play on, by the way, for the school team, is at the bottom of the slope. That would be ideal to plant a community orchard, because that would, naturally act as a sponge for all the water that kind of runs down the field, really. And then, you put a community orchard in there. And then, again, this is just, I hate to use that phrase, blue sky thinking, but I'm just thinking out the top of my head here, which is quite convenient because they put a little hinge in there. You could just have some benches in the middle or something. It's something to, something so that it becomes it's got a community aspect to it.
Absolutely.
But with nature at the heart of it. But as I say, this is just one idea of what could be hundreds and hundreds of ideas.
Yes.
It's a starting point, it shows that we're serious about what we'd like to see done here. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I can see the pond is there at northwest, around the northwest corner.
Uh-huh.
That's absolutely perfect. Yeah. One additional thing, at many community sites, which this will become one,
Hopefully,
there's quite often a open-sided shelter. Now that could be over where your seats are, because obviously this site, before those apple trees get going, this site's still fairly exposed, not just to rain, but also to what is predicted to be more 35 plus degrees Celsius summer temperatures. So you need somewhere to shelter as well there. So you've actually got the hedge belt, which will help you. You've also got the Portishead Town Council owned land, which is partially wooded. That stays the same, then that's a great offset for heat and for soaking up excess water coming down over the hill. So yeah, I mean, we should all be in a position. I think this is a great frame, a starting frame, and then basically people can add, take away, but we must end up with a pretty good idea of what it is fairly quickly that you want to do. So it needs to be chaired very efficiently. So, first off, though, if you're going to have any attempt to tidy up the bramble this spring, you need to get in there pretty quick, and you need to do that study.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That will be something I will, I will communicate at the meeting on Thursday. It's all very well having good ambitions, but nature, as you and I know, nature doesn't work to a human timetable. Nature will carry on doing what it needs to do, and what we don't want to have is a repeat of what happened in 2018, which is, like I say, when North Somerset Council went in there and tidied up and decimated the place in the middle of the breeding season.
Well, just to put a few alarm bells out there, I was walking along the ditch near Paper Mill Gardens the other day, and a starling was carrying nesting material into a rooftop. So they've started. That gives you an example.
Now, Chris, I'm going to ask you a question, and that is that I've read recently that the government have spoken about an initiative to get more access to nature. What's your thoughts on that, then?
I think it's a very good initiative. I can't find any fault with it. There's a lot of money spoken of to come through from government potentially to give access. I think there's something that was said by government last summer, that they wanted to develop something whereby everybody was about 15 minutes away from a nature walk.
Mm-hmm.
They could, and of course, if you look at government website, you can see that nature is constantly mentioned as an aid to health and mental well-being. So
Mm-hmm.
it it's a no-brainer for me. It's an obvious one, and we do need people to actually respect and enjoy nature, because the danger is that if they don't, or the access is closed to them, when it comes to threats to nature, the people will turn around and just basically say, well, we haven't got any access to that.
Mm.
Why should we be interested? That's
Mm-hmm.
something that the privileged few do. Now, that's the big thing I'm worried about, because, of course, you've got a government body at the moment. So, and that's forestry. We as a family went to the Forest of Dean, and we have to pay for, there's lots of different places in the Forest of Dean, lots of different car parks. Most of them appear to have cafes, but the car parks that we were actually going to as a family, we would have to pay for each one. And I began to think, hang on a minute, we're in a cash crisis, we're in a cost of living crisis, we're also pleading to get people out into nature. If we're starting to charge for car parking when there's a pretty good cafe on site which is making money and must be making money, because you see queues outside. Now, the other thing was that I mentioned this and said, surely this is restrictive. And I was told, oh, no problem at all. You can actually become a member. You can pay £90 a year and become a member. Now, that really grinded my gears. Why? Quite simple. Folks, I don't know if there's anybody listening to this. We've already paid for it. We're paying tax for it.
Yep.
It's a public body.
Yep.
You're paying twice, you're paying 3 times. Wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Yep.
And the thing that it will do is stop people from going to places. And some of the forestry places are brilliant. They're absolutely excellent. If you move away from the people, you will start to see wildlife. Sorry, people, but you all gather around, probably around about 500 meters of the car park. And after that, the wildlife starts up. Basic disturbance. But if we want people to have access to wildlife down these magnificent tracks on our forestry areas, then we need to forget about car parking. The car parks, we never paid for them before. They were never that bad. And I really don't get it. And I've seen also on the Somerset levels as well, there's an organisation down on the levels who are now charging for car parking, not just for the likes of people who aren't members, but also full price for members, full price for blue badge holders. So again, I think this is too restrictive. I think this is turning people away from nature. I also think this one other thing, and that is, if an organisation has had a lottery grant and starts charging for car parking or entry to nature reserves, I think we need to go back and have a look at the original application of the lottery grant to find out whether free access was mentioned or not. We need to open nature up. We don't need to close it down. And there are some
I agree.
that are trying to close it down.
Yeah.
It's not be for the chosen few or for those that can afford it. It has to be for everyone.
Absolutely. One of our viewers, Laura, has made a point about wheelchair-friendly paths around by Slade Road. She says, just a little bit of hard landscaping, please. A nature walk, and hopefully a nature wheel too. So, yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree.
Yeah, nature has to be for everyone. Otherwise, you're failing at the very first level.
It will come back to haunt us, because basically, if it's only the few that go, come the crunch, and nature's facing a crunch already. But
Yeah.
come the real crunch, that we really are losing sites dramatically, and we want public support, it won't be there.
Yes.
They don't know about it. They haven't got access to it. They're not allowed, or they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Simple. Give
Yeah.
them access.
And then people ultimately just become desensitized to nature, which is not what you want.
No.
No. You know, and it's yeah. Obviously, you know, we will do what we can to you know, to try and influence some of this decision making.
I'll have to cut in there and say, Jonathan, there's no sites like that round us.
No.
As far as the Wild Portishead area is concerned,
no,
it doesn't apply. It's
no.
a genuine worry that once this thing starts, it's already spreading.
Yeah. Well, you say that, Chris. Yeah, we do have a nature reserve locally where you know, which is owned by North Somerset Council, which does have hard car parking on it. You know, sorry, you know, it has concrete, has tarmac car parking on it. Yeah, it's a cash-strapped county council could look at something like that and think, why aren't we charging people to access? Why aren't we charging people to park here if they want to access our bird hides?
I think that's fine. But then if you're going to go for grants to maintain your reserve, and if those grants are from the public purse, so to speak, or from places like the lottery, then I'm sorry, there has to be a clause on there which say, no, access is for all.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I don't think at Portbury it would ever work, simply because of the fact that mostly when I go to Portbury, I walk. So that's a good 2.5 mile walk for me. So I've had a good walk before I get there. But if I have driven down, if I've had to go down there fast and look at a bird, or normally it's to respond to somebody that's injured down there. So if I have had to drive down there, I've normally driven down onto the housing estates. I parked up there and got access down through one of the gates. I've not gone to any of the official car parks.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that's what people will do. They'll cut up the other roads. So, but I don't think Portbury has a big enough car park to cater for people from the outside in any case. I think it's more catering for the people that live within Portishead, isn't it? Sorry.
No, that's all right. I sympathise with you, Chris, because I picked up a couple of bugs before Christmas and it was not fun. Yeah. Before we're gonna have to wrap up in a minute or so. When we're out and about at the moment, what are we likely to be seeing? What's nature up to at the moment?
Right, get up early, get out in your garden early, and listen for some bird song. It's starting, and now is the time of year to actually learn bird song, because it's only the few birds which are actually singing. So, for example, in my garden, you've got the typical chirps coming out from the house sparrows. They're very active at the moment, and they are building. Then you've got the dunnocks, and the dunnocks now have started pairing up. They started chasing each other around, which is normally a precursor to the beginning of making nests. And they do have a funny setup, which we'll probably leave for when we're past 9 o'clock at night. When we do one of those late ones, we'll leave the dunnock story till then, because it's a bit rude. But dunnocks should be singing, should be chasing each other around. As I said, precursor to nest building, and blackbirds as well. So a lot of the blackbirds, if your garden's a bit like mine, and you've had more than 5 blackbirds in your garden most morning, you're probably finding now you've gone back to 1 or 2, and that's simple because those blackbirds the other blackbirds were overwintering blackbirds, probably from Scandinavia. They're now moving back north.
Yeah.
And now you're going to be left with that's going to breed with you.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in my garden, I've got 2 male blackbirds at the moment who are, again, chasing each other around. They're creating territorial boundaries, and 1 female. So the 1 female is likely to stay in the garden and hopefully breed. So I'm trying to think of any other birds. We've had groups of starlings flying over. As I said, down at Paper Mill Gardens, there was a starling carrying nesting material in. If you look at the corvids at the moment, they're all practicing like crazy. So that you go down to the high street and walk towards Gordeno School or Bristol Road, you'll probably notice quite a few corvids in the sky carrying sticks. Those are the rooks. And they're at the moment practicing nest building. So they'll probably get going and lay eggs probably I'd say beginning of March, if the weather's kind to them. Jackdaws are also doing the same thing. And I can see a big tall tree from my garden. The magpies are already building a nest, except this isn't the nest. This is them both practicing. So they fly to the top of the tree and basically break off rotten twigs, and then they fly down to the tree that they're building in. Then they reshape the twigs with the feet and the beaks, and then they make them actually curve, Jonathan. They can actually take a pencil like that and make it curve. So, and then they line the nest or start to build the nest. But at the moment, it's all practice. It's all practice makes perfect. So when they get round to it in about a month's time, obviously, then you'll start to see with the magpie, the typical cut nest with the roof on the top to stop the crows looking in. In the garden, also growing like mad, should be dandelions. Let them grow, don't cut them. And for all those of you that took part last year in No Mo
May, yeah.
No. It went No Mo March, No Mo April, No Mo May, No Mo June, No Mo July. Do it again. See what you get. And you'll be pleasantly surprised. The monotony of that green grass will gradually be overtaken by wild flowers.
Yep. No, I've one of the things that I've been doing at the moment, because obviously the weekend that's just gone by, we've just had the big RSPB Birdwatch, and unfortunately, I was so busy doing a few other things that I didn't have the time I wanted to be able to kind of, spend an hour looking out the window. But what I did do was I set up my trail cam to do a lot of the legwork for me. So when I was making tea in the kitchen, I'd look out and I'd record what I was seeing, but I am going to here we go. I'm just going to bring up the image here. I am going to eulogize about trail cams, because they are a brilliant way of being able to record what goes on in your garden, and especially as you can, that's exactly the same one I've got, actually. And what are they these days, Chris? They're probably about 40. I say about £40. It sounds like I'm
depends what you're after. This is this one came. It had on the box, not broadcast quality.
No,
it's not, but it's telling you, and you can see perfectly well what it is in your garden, and it's got good sound. Visually, it's a little bit fuzzy, but apart from that, for the price, it's absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
If you want to buy something sophisticated with a lot more quality, you can get 4K ones, 4K at night as well. Wow.
Yeah.
You're talking £200-300, but one of these is at most, I would say, 70 quid. At least, I would say around about 45.
Yep. Well, this is here we go. So that's
yeah.
that's what I've done in my garden. Like I say, is I was out today and doing the strawberry line, but I just let the camera do some recording for me. So I will go through and see what's come up at the bird feeders at the moment. I will say that on Christmas Day, this was most bizarre. That I was talking to my mum on the telephone. Hello, mum, and I'd said to her, it's usually about this time of year that my blackcaps turn up. As I was talking to her, I looked out on the feeders. There was the female blackcap, and then within an hour, the male turned up as well. So I've definitely got a male and a female blackcap in the garden. Always a real joy to see them return every year. Fabulous little birds, and I think I've put pictures up on the Wild Portishead Facebook page. So, Chris, I'm afraid we are out of time, but I will.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, we will be doing this again. We'll try and make this a monthly event, and we'll try and pack it with more photographs and more information next time.
Next time we'll talk about the book that's coming out.
Yes, this is the Ian Parsons book, isn't it, that you've written a chapter on?
Yes, there's about 10 different authors, but Ian's the one compiling it. Yes, and Ian obviously is familiar to Wild Portishead. He's been on the show a couple of times, and I think when it's released, we'll probably have to get him back, and perhaps a few of the other authors as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm afraid we're out of time, folks. But we will be doing, like I say, we're going to try and make this a monthly thing now. Keep an eye on the Facebook page, because I will be updating what happens with regard to Slade Road Field and other sightings around Portishead. Until the next time, it just remains for me to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight. We'll see you on the next show. So until then, big thank you to Chris. Big thank you to everybody who's tuned in. See you on the next show.
Bye-bye.
Bye.